Hi everyone. One topic that I thought was very interesting that has two sides is the argument if euthanasia or assisted suicide should be legal. Euthanasia can either be taken in a needle form or a pill form. There are those who believe that assisted suicide is right because if animals are able to be put asleep when they are in pain, then humans should be able to too. A lot of people who have diseases such as cancer or are dying from other causes are suffering every single day. Though a lot of people believe that this isn't morally right and that it should remain illegal. They argue that there may be a slippery slope from euthanasia to murder, and that legalizing euthanasia will unfairly target the poor and disabled and create incentives for insurance companies to terminate lives in order to save their money. Opponents of euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide contend that doctors have a moral responsibility to keep their patients alive, as reflected by the Hippocratic Oath. I do agree that doctors have that responsibility, though it should only go so far. If someone is terminally ill and is only given a certain time frame left to live their lives, then I don't feel doctors have that same responsibility. If someone has written in their will or said that they don't want to have to go through the pain, then they should be allowed the right of death. I certainly don't want to go through all that when I'm older, and I personally seen those around me suffer from cancer, and it's horrible. My Nana passed away a few years ago from kidney failure, and she was in pain all the way until the end. She couldn't eat, she couldn't talk, and she couldn't move. Our family just sat around and watched her body shut down. If there was eligibility to use euthanasia when she passed away, our whole family wouldn't have argued with it. I believe that there comes a certain time where we all want the pain to just go away for those that we love, and no one wants to have their family or friends pass away. But if they're terminally ill, in the end, it's their choice if they want to go or not. My speech objective is to persuade the audience that euthanasia should be allowed for people that really want it. The one thing that got me on the antagonist side of the argument is seeing people who actually have been in pain, and it's not a fun thing to watch. Before my grandpa passed away, I remember him telling me that if he was ever in a lot of pain in life, he would not want something like that, like at all. He would just take the euthanasia and go peacefully. That way, he wouldn't have to deal with all the pain and suffering of watching those he loves around him, seeing him like we did in a hospital bed, because it's not fun. The arguing side of this said that doctors have a certain responsibility, which they do. Though, when my grandfather went into the hospital, I remember his doctor telling my mom and I that she didn't think he had long. Instead of lying to us and saying that he had a chance, just like all the other nurses and doctors, she told us how much pain he was going through, and she said that it was up to us if we wanted to let him go. He had a machine that was letting him breathe, and our whole family knew that my grandfather would never want to suffer like that. He couldn't even talk nor even open his eyes. So we made the same decision that he would have made, and I personally know that if the use of euthanasia was legal, he would have said yes in a heartbeat. At the same time, I feel that the use of euthanasia should only be for people who are suffering in pain and terminally ill. This is a hard topic for a lot of people because of how many arguments there are. What I found interesting that I never knew about was that physician-assisted suicide is legal in 7 U.S. states and in the District of Columbia. It is an option given to individuals by law in the District of Columbia, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. When my grandfather and I were talking about the use of assisted suicide and euthanasia use, I remember him telling me that there was a state this was legal in, which I believe was Vermont, though I wasn't aware that 7 states are legal as of right now. I found that mostly all the states in which assisted suicide is legal, there has to be a 6-month life expectancy, and there's a list the person has to go through in order to get it. For example, in Hawaii, the patient must take 2 oral requests separated by at least 20 days and must be evaluated by 2 healthcare providers and a counselor, and must undergo a waiting period in between their request and receipt of the prescription. I feel that it is definitely necessary to have to go through a process that the person would have to go through. Though, if someone is terminally ill, they probably wouldn't have the time to go through that process. And there should be an allowance from all of the legalized states saying that if a patient has the use of assisted suicide or use of euthanasia permission in their will, or they say it multiple times with proof that it should be allowed. In 2015, the governor of California said something that was similar to what I'm arguing. The California Governor Jerry Brown signed into law the End of Life Option Act, which legalized physician-assisted suicide for Californians with terminal illnesses. In a letter to the members of the California State Assembly, Brown wrote that he thought about his own death while considering whether to sign the bill. I do not know what I would do if I were dying in prolonged and excruciating pain. I am certain, however, that it would be a comfort to be able to consider the options afforded by this bill. The way that Jerry Brown stated his input is exactly how I feel about this situation. As a person, you have to put yourself in the patient's position. If you were laying in a bed knowing that you are already going to die and in severe pain, and there was a pill or a shot that you could take to just make the suffering go away in minutes without any pain, I would 100% take that opportunity, not to hurt my family or because that I want to go, but because it would make the pain go away. I know what it is like to see people in pain, like I said, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, and I know that one day I might be in that position. In conclusion, I hope that everyone has taken into consideration the use of euthanasia for people that are terminally ill and sick. If you place yourself in their shoes, what would you do? Thank you, guys.